Have you seen this recent, very fake Nintendo Direct leak? So there's this list that's been going around. It's labeled the Nintendo Direct for April 18th, 2024, and it has a whole bunch of nice little segments with a wonderful batch of things. So yes, this is 100% fake. Never has a Direct been leaked in this way. You're not gonna find a nice, neat little list like this. I also don't think that the Direct would have been finalized more than a month in advance. There's a lot of flux with these things. The spacing and labeling for a lot of these different games is not correct. I don't think it's likely that Nintendo would bundle Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 together after we just got 3D All-Stars a few years ago, although I would like to see a Galaxy 2 at some point. We're not going to see the announcement of Metroid Prime 2, 3, 4, and then also Metroid Samus Returns all in one presentation, and them all coming out at very different times so far in advance. There's a lot here that doesn't actually make too much sense. It's more of a wish list. And so if you've seen this, don't believe this list. It's a fun list. I'm sure there are many that would like to see an Animal Crossing New Leaf HD, but that's never going to happen. Nintendo is just going to make a new Animal Crossing when that time comes. But you might be wondering, why am I talking about this fake Nintendo Direct leak? Well, one, it's to spread awareness. Two, I think it's still interesting to have these discussions. But also three, I think the reason we're starting to see things like this is because there's a lot of anticipation for a Direct in the not-so-distant future, perhaps in April, as rumored. I think there's a lot of hope riding on this next Direct. But why is that exactly? Why are the expectations and hopes so high for this particular Direct? Well, that's what we're talking about today. Welcome everyone, this is Andres Restart, and as I said earlier, we are talking about all hope riding on this next big Nintendo Direct. Why do I think this is the case? Well, there's a few different reasons, but before going forward, let me remind you all that we are aiming for a current goal of 40,000 subscribers. So if you're watching this video and you hate enjoying Nintendo news and theory discussion based videos, then don't subscribe and hit the notification bell. With that said, what's so special about this Direct? Well, firstly, we don't know when the Direct is going to happen. It's rumored for April from some credible places, and I think that some signs are leaning in that direction, but it is still possible we have to wait for the typical June time for a Direct. So if we don't get it in April, that doesn't mean we're not going to get a Direct ever again. There will be a Direct at some point. Nintendo's going to have to tell us about the second half of the year. Which brings me to one of the reasons why there's a lot of hope riding on this Direct. What we need to learn for the second half of the year. Ever since the reports came out about Switch 2 being internally delayed to at least early next year, a lot of excitement in the Nintendo community kind of went by the wayside. And some of these reports have even indicated that Nintendo is saving a lot of their big games for next year, basically suggesting that 2024 is going to be a real dud. But I don't think we should be making that assumption necessarily. Because, look at last year. There were credible people saying that there isn't going to be any major releases after Tears of the Kingdom on Switch, and yet Tears of the Kingdom came out May, but only a few months later, we got Mario Wonder. Nintendo still made the second half of 2023 interesting after having a pretty amazing first half of 2023. And now looking at 2024, while I would say the first 3 months of 2024 are kind of lackluster for me personally, these next 3 months with Endless Ocean, Paper Mario, and Luigi's Mansion 2 are looking kinda solid. And I would even say the fact that Nintendo went ahead and dated both Luigi's Mansion and Paper Mario on Mario Day, and both are coming on the first half of the year, that bodes well for the second half, because if Nintendo truly was pushing things back into 2025 and beyond, and had nothing really significant for the second half of the year, then why not spread out the games we already know about? I think likely because they have some significant announcements left for 2024 that will fill up the second half just fine. But of course, that is my speculation. We do not know what is going to happen. But this next Nintendo Direct will obviously speak on that. We will get a better picture of what Nintendo's second half is going to look like. And so when this direct comes, the concerns about having a lackluster year will hopefully be put to rest, or they will be confirmed. I'm sure this is going to depend by person to person depending on your preferences. As I said earlier, this first 3 months of the year, I thought I would like more, but after hearing about these different games and trying out the demo for Princess Peach Showtime, they're not for me, but I'm sure they are for some of you watching. So I'm not trying to say you shouldn't enjoy another Code Recollection or Mario vs. Donkey Kong, but I didn't buy those games. But I will be playing Endless Ocean, I will be playing Paper Mario, and those are for me, but maybe you don't like those kinds of games. Obviously, everyone has different preferences. So the next Direct, while it's going to be very telling of a lot of things, it's probably not going to appeal to everyone because no Direct ever has. But one part of the Nintendo audience that is definitely anticipating this next Direct is the Metroid part of the fanbase. Because when it comes to Metroid, there's a few different things that could be going on. There's the whole Metroid Prime 4 situation, which is the biggest situation related to Metroid. We're not quite sure what's going to happen. Is Metroid Prime 4 going to be saved for Switch 2? Or will it be coming out this year as one of Nintendo's bigger releases? This upcoming Direct will likely be telling of that. And regardless of whether Prime 4 is coming out this year or not, will we finally see Prime 2 and 3? Prime 2 supposedly supposed to come soon, so when is soon? But then going beyond Metroid, there's also the Pokemon conversation right now, because while we got the Pokemon Presents, and we did see Legend ZA, and that's a 2025 release, there have been rumors of some kind of remake being in the works. We've seen that Pokemon Company has opened up an office in the same building of ILCA, the company that was responsible for the outsourced remake of Pokemon Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. And then we've heard things from the Riddler, and then there was that thing that Pyoro said relating to something that he heard a while back. And so there's still some inkling of a hope that there could be another mainline Pokemon release for this year. Some type of outsourced remake. And with us seeing some more regular mainline Pokemon announcements in Directs, we could see one in April. And if not, then maybe there's a Presents a little bit later into the year, and so there still is room for Pokemon announcements for this year outside of the next Direct. But that is another thing to consider, not even just mainline Pokemon games, but spin-offs. Can there be some Pokemon love for 2024 on Nintendo Switch? Well, the next Direct could be telling of that. Moving beyond Pokemon though, there is also the Zelda angle. Typically, we get some kind of major Zelda release per year, 2022 being the exception because Tears of the Kingdom was delayed from holiday 2022 to early-ish 2023. But outside of that exception, we've seen some sort of major Zelda release per year, which would suggest that there is a likelihood that something else Zelda is coming this year. If Nintendo's truly pushing Switch 2 into 2025, then not only will that suggest that Nintendo is going to have to make some adjustments in terms of their games lineup for 2024, but also things that they may have wanted to have for Switch 1 in 2025, some of those may be pushed up into 2024 to kind of help balance things out here. So this might mean that the transition from Switch 1 to Switch 2 will actually be a little bit more drastic once Switch 2 is announced, but Switch 2 is taking longer to be announced, so it does balance out there. But in terms of some of these games being moved around, I think Zelda does figure into this equation. I think the conversation around us maybe seeing like a remake of Ocarina of Time, I've always thought this was going to happen, but I've never thought it would be a 2024 thing. I've thought maybe 2025. Now, with Switch 2 being pushed back, maybe that's a 2026 release. The point really is that Nintendo should have some sort of ambitious visual showcase of Zelda in the first year or two of their new console, as they've done in the past. But with the thinking on that happening a little bit later, there definitely still needs to be something sooner. Now, does that mean that Nintendo finally puts out Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD? If there's ever a time, if these games were to come to Switch, I think 2024 makes the most sense now. Of course, operating on the assumption that Switch 2 isn't coming out this year, which feels like a safe assumption because of all the reports. But something else I've been talking about lately is, well, if we don't get Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD, how about 2D Zelda? It's been such a long time, could we maybe see that? That's a possibility, but then that might also mean we don't ever see Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD. It kind of feels like this next Direct might be the last real significant chance for these games to be announced. They could always happen later, all hope wouldn't be entirely lost, but for me, it would be at least mostly lost. But let's say we don't get anything major Metroid this year, we don't get anything else major Pokemon for this year, or Zelda. What's left for Nintendo to have for the second half of the year that would make it worthwhile? There's an abundance of remakes and remasters we could see, but whatever Nintendo has been holding back for the holiday, this Direct is likely going to start to showcase. Maybe it's related to some of the things I've discussed in this video, or maybe it's something out of left field. Maybe it's Donkey Kong or Star Fox. Or perhaps another Mario game. We don't know, but that's one of the reasons why we're anticipating this Direct. We want to find out about the holiday game. We want to know if there's something Metroid happening, or something Zelda happening, or something Pokemon happening. Should we give up on some of these rumored remakes and remasters? Is Nintendo going to do a good job of having a solid transition over into the next generation? Will this be a good year? This next big Nintendo Direct will be telling of many of these things, and likely even more. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is Andre's Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.